Okay, Nicky, I was going to ask you about where you think Lazio is going to end up, because I really, really like this team, and I just feel like it was a harsh defeat, understandable one, but harsh, to Lazio.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of players absent, but I do think it's more important to talk about Roma right now. They've been linked with Ronaldo in the past. Ronaldo's just come out with this fascinating interview that he's done with Piers Morgan. It's an exclusive. We haven't heard it yet because as of yet, the whole interview hasn't been released. Apparently there's lots of extra information on what he thinks of the ownership, what he thinks of Gary Neville, so on and so forth. But from what we know so far, he's come out against Erik ten Hag, said he doesn't have any respect for the coach because he has no respect for him. Lots of things about, just how he feels that Manchester United hasn't progressed. Now, this was a play. It was really interesting because I feel like, he was linked with Napoli over the summer. He's been linked with Roma now and a reunion with Jose Mourinho. And he's a player that, weirdly enough, despite how brilliant he was at Juventus, when you sort of think of the time that Juventus started to fall, it was when he arrived. And you thought that this would be the cherry on top of a very well-built cake. And I don't know whether it just happened to be that his arrival coincided with Beppe Marotta, again, talking today about the fact that, I didn't leave just because of that. My cycle came, I didn't leave because of Ronaldo. My cycle just came to a natural end at Juventus. But it almost seemed like he really was against that because he's the king of sustainability. He's you love to call him the adult in the room, at Juventus. And you sort of felt like his loss had a greater impact almost on the fall of Juventus than anything, really, Beppe Marotta. And perhaps what Ronaldo did was paper over the cracks. And I thought it was so interesting at the time when Bonucci said, you can't help but psychologically sort of give up a little when Ronaldo's there because you think he'll just resolve everything, it's fine, he'll get a goal, we don't need to give up it, we can always play in second gear. And whether that's had a detrimental effect on the psyche. And sometimes when you say, is Ronaldo good or bad for a team, it's never about who he is because he's always good. I really want to underline that. I feel like even at Manchester United last season when they were just hideous to watch, he was always good and he will always be good in my opinion. It's about what are the circumstances surrounding him, how other players feel because he's so good. How are they progressing or not progressing because of him, because they can rely on him, because he's the plaster to everything? And whether or not you think that this is a guy that can make a difference if he does choose Roma.
I think it's a fascinating quote from Bonucci, isn't it? So it makes me curious when they were away at Maccabi, who he was looking at and thinking the same thing. Oh, I don't have to do anything because Juan Cuadrado will fix it all for me. I don't know. This link to Roma, it's a fun idea. I mean, the idea of Mourinho and Ronaldo, what a story, of course. And
Mourinho will say that
plenty of
Cremonese didn't spend as much. You can't say that anymore.
It would be plenty of drama and spectacle. But do I think that it's particularly likely? Not really. Do I think that Roma are looking to spend that sort of money on the wages of someone who is only going to be there for a very short term, who is not sort of conducive to the longer term financial stability that the American owners are trying to achieve? It doesn't feel like it fits to me. And I think that Ronaldo's hitting an awkward point where he certainly still has things to contribute. I mean, last season at United, he scored nearly 20 goals in the Premier League and pretty much a goal a game in the Champions League. We're not talking about someone who hasn't got things to contribute still, but who is undeniably at 37 years old on the downward curve, is on the declining part of their career, and who still expects to be the center of everything and the one that everything's built around. And I think that clash of realities has already hit in Manchester. And I think, to be honest with you, we're in a very different world for Ronaldo to the one that he was in when he joined Juventus. I think a lot of clubs are quite wary of what he's going to do in practical terms to the balance of their changing rooms and their squads, more than just the undoubted sort of social media hype and marketing boost that he gives you. And I think even that has been damaged in the last couple of years a little bit. Now, the World Cup's coming up. Maybe he'll have a great World Cup. Maybe he'll come back and everyone will want him again because he'll have a brilliant World Cup. But right now, I don't see Roma being the home for him. And I'm not sure I see anywhere in Serie A being the home for him. But my gosh, what a combustible mix that would be if he did end up in Rome, because Mourinho, to me, Mina, I don't know if you feel the same, feels like he's approaching some sort of tipping point in his sort of ability to not just be angry Jose every week, which is what it feels like, from sort of torching Rick Karsdorp and absolutely sort of throwing him under the bus, to what felt like a very calculated sending off this weekend against Torino, almost getting himself sent off to try to draw the attention and make sure the story was not about how poor his team had been. I think to close my thoughts on the Ronaldo bit, I think you'd be crazy to take that particular can of fuel and tip it all over the Jose fire.
I actually think it would work, but I don't think it's going to happen. Our producer's very like, no way. I don't know. There's still a part of me that would, people are like, okay, he's in a physical decline. I get that. I get that he's not the player that he was, who would, like run so quickly down the wing and always create magic out of nothing. But I do think that, even last year in a terrible Manchester United side, he still kept scoring goal after goal. He was still the difference maker. The difference is that what he gives to the team, how much you have to perhaps make up for it in defensive strength. That is true, and this is why we say about PSG not being a very balanced side, is because they do have three very good attackers, and sometimes that takes away from the rest of the balance of the team. That's just a natural thing anytime you have a great attacker. But right now, they don't have a goal scorer. Tammy Abraham is not, doing so well, right? Belotti, I just never got that, frankly speaking. I don't think he's a very good goal scorer anyway. I preferred Immobile to him for the national team, and Immobile is just not somebody that did exceptionally well at the time, even though I think he's quite underrated in his role for Italy. It's just not the guy that I would have gone if I was Roma. And yeah, I agree with you. I understand why you wouldn't go for him, his wages. I think he should take a wage cut just because of it would introduce more interesting equations into the mix. He could choose it from a wider number of clubs that he can move to, which seems like is inevitable in January. But then I would love to hear what Mourinho will say when they still don't win with Ronaldo. He will be like, what's he going to do then? If he's getting a red card now, what's he going to do then? Set himself on fire? I don't know. So, this is a side already with the third highest wage bill in Serie A. So, yeah, let's see. And I'm sorry, I'm expecting so much more. He continues to do something, whether it's throwing Karsdorp under the bus, and not because Karsdorp is just he's just a bad player, but now unprofessional, a traitor, whatever it is that he labeled him with. And what was really annoying about it is the fact that he made it a mystery. Oh, I'm not going to give you a name, so that we can all start discussing this and not focus on the fact that his team doesn't play well and hasn't played well for a long time. And on this occasion, he said, well, maybe if we had Dybala, it would have changed things, Well, Dybala was still there when you were completely thrashed by Udinese, Dybala was there when you were thrashed at the Europa League by a team, I don't remember their name, So it's not that I think Dybala is their best player, and I am going to make a point of saying, obviously, that absences matter, and he has had a lot of injuries, and I feel for him. But the team, I don't know what they do well, frankly speaking, because their attack is not great and their defense is not great. It's like heroic performances sometimes from Smalling, but otherwise, I don't think this is a team that has structure or huge desire. And then he's like, well, why should I motivate players who have spent their whole life dreaming of being at the stage? I mean, they should already come into a football match and already be motivated to give their best. And we know he's a good manager, but right now, and he is a great manager, but right now, tactically, he's deficient. I think on a mental level, he's quite good, but on a tactical level, this isn't a very good side. He's just not even as organized as, I'm impressed with Cremonese more than I am impressed with the way that Roma has organized themselves this season.
I think he's sometimes a great manager. Sometimes when he gets under the skin of players, he certainly has certain success stories where he gets under players' skin and they'll do anything for him. But it feels very not universal. And I do really think this Karsdorp situation, these feel like the situations where things unravel. It's happened so many times in his career, but he's made these enemies, and I feel like they never actually create these good situations that he imagines in his head. I mean, even in Inter, where he threw Balotelli under the bus way back when, Inter was still fine. They went on to win the Champions League. It didn't ruin things for them, but I also don't think it helped them. Like, I don't think it did anything that uplifted them for him to do that. It just made one particular player feel alienated. And yeah, you're right. The weird way of talking about the Karsdorp situation, of not naming him, it's deliberate. It's to make the press go off and chase their tails and go and find something else to talk about other than how his team's playing, which is not great. But there is a knock-on impact, and I think unless Karsdorp was sincerely really disliked by his teammates in the changing room, which I don't know, maybe he was, I think unless that was the case, I don't see how that makes the rest of your players feel good. Unless that's someone who really every player on that team was looking at and going, oh, what a jerk, I can't wait to get rid of him. It wouldn't make me feel good if that was someone I worked with. And yeah, okay, maybe they were a bit slack a couple of days at work, but then they got thrown under the bus like that. It wouldn't make me feel all that sort of positive, warm stuff I was talking about with Napoli or whatever earlier in the show. Like, I don't think it would bring back the good times. In terms of the practicalities on the pitch, yes, exactly as you said, Mina, Dybala is a very good footballer. He saved a point for them against Torino in effect because he came on and it was his shot off the woodwork that Matic converted very well for the equalising goal. And you've also, I think, hit the nail on the head with the Ronaldo thing. For all my skepticism over it, actually, what's the one thing that is, in absolute terms, true about this Roma team in terms of weaknesses? They don't score enough goals. There's only one team in the top 10 that scored fewer goals than the Roma, and that is Torino, who they played this weekend. Tammy Abraham isn't playing very well. Belotti, who comes on and gets his chance to break his little duck against his former club. I mean, I think we were all talking about this before the show started. You've never watched a penalty in your life that you're more certain is not going to be scored than that one, even though he hit the post. I mean, you know he's not going to score that penalty. So yes, if you put Ronaldo into the mix, he'd probably score some goals, and that would help in some way. But I think this is pie in the sky. I don't think he's going there.
Yeah, I agree with you. All I'm saying is that if I'm somebody, this would change the way that I am if I was in that dressing room. The one thing that happened 3 weeks ago, a month ago now, I don't know how long ago it was when Karsdorp returned from injury, and he was rushed back in because Zalewski wasn't available or couldn't play. And he said, I mean, it's amazing that he did this. He couldn't even sit down during the break, like as in at halftime, because he was scared that the swelling would get so much. So he just continued standing. And this shows the tremendous courage or like the bravery of Karsdorp to come back and do this for us. Like, that was so kind of him, basically. This was a starter for nearly all the matches last season, always available to you in the Conference League, in Serie A, played like over 40 times for the team. I'm just saying that if I gave all of that and risked my rehabilitation from an injury, I probably, if I'm just somebody looking at that situation, think, yeah, I might not do that for you, because now I'm scared to harm my health in a way that you might just still throw me under the bus when I make a mistake, It's what, look, I mean, this is not the first time he's done it, right? Like, there was an interview with Zeman in which he said, isn't this what he said last year when he said my players are from Serie C, the Serie C,
Mm-hmm.
After Bodo, was it Bodo Glimt? I don't know what it was that he...
Yeah. It was after Bodo.
And it worked out well for them. They did well. And I enjoy hearing what he has to say, even if I don't agree with him. So yeah, it is. It kind of seems like it's a pantomime, though. We're all just enjoying the drama that's happening to Roma. But it's like, if I'm a Roma fan right now...
Except for poor producer Simon.
Yeah. Who, by the way, today looks like he's just... I don't know how to explain. It's a meme that just came into my head that I won't go into. But anyway, he just looks very, very upset. I'm just saying, if I'm a Roma fan right now, I'm kind of like, I just kind of wish that my coach would sort of take all the drama away and make it... Roma's already such a dramatic place, what the fans want, what the media's like. You kind of sometimes just want a bit of calm. And he's not the guy who's doing that for the moment. It might work for them, it might not. I really don't know. But certainly from an attacking point of view, Zaniolo and his head down, Pellegrini not always available, Dybala and his injuries, and Abraham with his confidence, it's kind of not really looking too good, you know? So I hope they figure it out on an attacking level. But I don't know if they're going to finish anywhere near to the top four at the moment, considering how they're playing.
I agree. I think from having said before the season, I could see them as dark horse for the title. I think it's a stretch to see them in the top four at the moment.
Yeah,